An audacious crime on Syracuse's east side sends investigators spiraling for answers.
Oh. Get out, get out. Oh, this is a Shirley.
It was a very brutal, grisly crime scene.
The little kid just ran to me. He said his friend was dead.
It's a crime of anger, someone who is very upset with that person.
It definitely devastated me because now in my head it's like, why?
Before long, detectives are hot on the trail of a heartless killer.
There had been history of physical and psychological abuse.
He had both motive and proclivity to commit this crime, but he was nowhere to be found.
That gave us a really strong indication that he was on the run.
But her loved ones won't stop fighting until they see justice served.
He took a life that didn't belong to him, and he thought he was going to get away with it.
He has no remorse. He does not care.
This is a selfish and evil crime.
Any red flags of abuse or a bad relationship, just run. Just get out.
September 15th, 2021. Summer is coming to an end in Syracuse, a city regarded as the economic and educational hub of upstate New York.
It's known as the Central City in upstate New York. Approximately 150,000 people. We're most well known for Syracuse University, but the city itself has been one of the more violent places in upstate New York. Because of that, we have an entire unit that investigates homicides in the city.
And around 3:30 a.m., local investigators are called into action.
There's been a shooting in an apartment complex in East Syracuse.
521, it's going to be a confirmed shooting.
Copy, confirmed shooting.
When police make their way inside the apartment, they realize they're dealing with multiple victims.
Oh. Get out, get out. Clear, two down. That's 521, we're going to need medical handout.
They locate two victims, one male and one female. They were both on the kitchen floor.
Both victims are unconscious and lying in pools of blood.
There was large amounts of blood, and it was a very brutal, grisly crime scene.
There's casings right there. No gun. Right here. Right here. There's casings on the ground. There's casings right there.
Based on the amount of blood and shell casings, it's obvious to officers that both victims have been shot multiple times.
Even seasoned officers are taken aback by the brutality of this crime.
Oh, this is a Shirley.
Yeah. I gotta say, this is not what I was expecting when I said come to this call.
The victims are identified as 29-year-old Shabria Gainey and 33-year-old Julian Mansaw.
Julian was shot 10 times, while Shabria suffered 5 gunshot wounds.
To officers, this immediately reads overkill.
Regardless, paramedics must conduct their due diligence, checking for any possible signs of life.
All right, let's do the pulse.
Sadly, there's nothing the paramedics can do for Julian.
So we're ready for pulse.
They were too late to support and help him. Julian is already dead.
But to everyone's surprise, there is hope for Shabria.
You say you got a pulse on her?
Yeah.
She has been shot in her arm, her back, and her chest, a total of 5 times. But as EMTs check for a pulse, they notice that she's still alive.
Girl. Somebody
However, if there's going to be a chance of saving Shabria's life, paramedics are in a race against time.
Let's bring the girl out this way, Brett. You're going to take her out in the hallway.
They waste no time loading Shabria into the ambulance.
As she's raced to the hospital, paramedics do everything they can to save her life.
The big question right now is, will it be enough?
For 29-year-old single mother Shabria Gainey, nothing was more important than family.
She's very outspoken. She's also very overprotective. She don't play about her family.
She was outgoing, friendly, very family-oriented. She hung out a lot with her sisters. We was very close.
We had a great relationship. We laughed, we danced, we sang, we cracked jokes about people in the family and stuff like that.
She's always laughing, she's always smiling. She called herself Looney Tunes for a reason, because she is goofy. Always making people laugh, kind of like, I would say like life of the party kind of thing. We always had a great time.
Shabria dreamt of letting her outgoing personality shine for the world to see.
She actually wanted to be a singer or a dancer. She loved to dance and sing, and she was very good at it. But she had 2 boys that she had to focus on. It was hard for her, but she loved being a mom, and she showed her kids lots of love.
Her worry was more making sure that she had a legacy for her boys. She wanted to make sure she could make any type of positive life she can with the boys.
She was a good mom. She loved those boys, and those were her life.
Like many other young women, Shabria also longed for a life partner. But finding the right man proved to be a challenge.
In 2021, she just got out of a rocky 3-year relationship.
It was mostly drama or them arguing about something.
She said, oh, this is not working. I'm going to move on.
And Shabria didn't waste any time jumping back into the dating pool.
She did have a few boyfriends. Some of them was very nice, but she didn't look at them like, oh, this is my life right here. She just kind of moved on.
However, when Shabria started spending more time with a childhood friend, 33-year-old Julian Mansaw, it seemed as though their platonic relationship could become something more.
They were friends since middle school. They've always been really close.
He's been around forever, always there for her. She can always depend on Julian.
I think her and Julian always had a little romance going on, but they never pursued it because they were in relationships. And they didn't want to mess up their friendship by a relationship.
But after years spent as just friends, the stars had finally aligned.
Julian was newly divorced and had 2 young kids. So he and Shabria really bonded over their love for their children.
It was nice to see her happy and smiling. He was good to her. He kept a smile on her face.
But now Shabria and Julian have been gunned down inside her apartment.
Bring the girl out this way, Brett. You're going to take her out in the hallway.
Julian didn't make it, but Shabria still had a pulse, so she was rushed to the hospital.
Meanwhile, officers outside are speaking with the neighbor who made the 911 call, and he's accompanied by a young boy.
He just ran, the little kid just ran to me.
Yeah. What he said?
He said his parents is dead.
It seems Shabria's 6-year-old son was the one who found her and Julian.
Did he also witness what happened?
It is difficult to see in a small child trying to process those very, very difficult traumas.
After ending a tumultuous 3-year relationship, single mother Shabria Gainey had recently gotten another chance at love with an old friend named Julian Mansaw.
He was very nice and good to Shabria.
Julian was the gentlest person I knew. They were always friends.
He's been around forever.
But on September 15th, 2021, Julian is dead, and Shabria's life is in jeopardy after her young son found them shot inside Shabria's East Syracuse apartment.
He just ran, the little kid just ran to me.
Yeah. What he said?
He said his parents is dead.
Shabria's neighbor tells detectives that around 3 a.m., he just stepped outside when Shabria's little boy ran up to him.
I was still outside.
You were sitting outside. We just basically found you first.
He was crying.
The caller stated that he did not step foot inside, but instead called 911 and waited with the young boy.
The officers decide to take Shabria's young son aside to see if there's anything else he can tell them about what he witnessed.
Why don't you come with me, little man?
You want to have a seat in here for me, buddy?
That was a very difficult interview for him to get through, especially. He is 6 years old. It is difficult to see that in a small child, trying to process those, very, very difficult traumas.
He said he heard shots. And he said he stayed in his room because he was scared. And when shots stopped, he came out and he said they was all in a lot of blood. And so he ran out and tried to get help.
Fortunately, Shabria's other son was spared the nightmare his little brother endured.
That night, the father of the oldest one took him, and she had the little one.
As police continue questioning Shabria's young son, they realize he won't be able to give them much more information.
Who else was in the apartment besides your mommy? Have you seen that man who was in there before? No. He doesn't know his date of birth. He just knows his first.
Does he know his first and last name?
Just his first name.
He does know that he's got family living nearby, but he doesn't know where they are or how to reach them.
He says he's got a grandma, but doesn't know where, doesn't know his number.
However, as the sun begins to rise over Syracuse, the rest of Shabria's family receives word that something terrible has happened.
My uncle's girlfriend called me and told me that she had been listening to the police scanner, and it said Gainey on the east side of Syracuse.
I woke up to 5 missed phone calls and a message saying that Shabria could be in trouble and that we needed to head up to her apartment as soon as possible.
I got the call. It said, get to Shabria's house ASAP. Something happened.
Shabria's family began to show up on the scene and demand answers from police.
My Aunt Melissa was out there. We all were out there. Shabria's kid was in a car with this CPS worker.
We got a call that our family member is in trouble. We need to know what's going on. At least something.
But with an open investigation in process, getting any answers from the officers is easier said than done.
Ma'am, I have nothing for you.
I seen a lot of police and it was taped off. We didn't know who was hurt in the house or how bad it was or anything, and they weren't really telling us much. So it was terrible. We were very much panicked.
I just got the call from the neighbor. That's the only reason why I knew.
It's an ongoing investigation. I can't say anything.
Really?
It's very common in homicides, especially, to have family members have very big reactions. So I don't begrudge anybody that has a big reaction to that. You want to be as helpful as you can, but it's difficult to toe that line between telling the family everything and protecting the integrity of the case.
Obviously, they got a crime scene to focus on, but we're trying to figure out where my sister is.
They took a long time to actually tell us anything. We stood outside for an hour waiting to hear something.
Finally, there's some news.
And they said 2 people was hurt and Shabria was at the hospital.
Shabria's family rushes to her side, but upon arriving at the hospital, they learn it's too late.
Despite doctors' best efforts, they were not able to bring Shabria back from the brink.
My sister is dead.
In Syracuse, New York, 29-year-old shooting victim Shabria Gainey has just passed away at the hospital from her injuries.
My sister is dead. She didn't make it. I'm not really one to be emotional, whatever, when it comes to certain things, but that broke me. Yeah, that broke me.
She was still fighting, like the fighter she was. I'm shocked that she passed. She was a big fighter.
As Shabria's family tries to come to terms with the tragic news, investigators continue searching the crime scene for clues as to who did this.
There's an open window, and investigators surmise that's how the killer was able to enter the apartment.
Inside the house were multiple .40 caliber casings.
The police recovered at least a dozen spent casings from the kitchen floor and underneath the fridge.
There are also multiple projectiles embedded into a nearby couch.
I think any police officer is going to look at that scene and see that it's pretty clear that it's a crime of anger, someone who is very upset with that person.
In their search for answers, the investigators circle back around to Shabria's devastated family.
Learning that terrible piece of news, it's a very difficult thing to process. It's a very difficult thing to understand that their family members no longer here and they're not coming back.
How is her little boy doing?
He's okay.
We kind of explained it to him too, that she's still with you. She's in heaven now, but she's always going to be with you. And he did very good. I think for a 6-year-old, better than I did.
Detectives confirmed to the family that there was a second victim, Julian Mansaw.
It definitely devastated me because now in my head it's like, why? Because Julian was the gentlest person I knew.
Do you have any idea who may have done this?
The family has an immediate answer.
At this point, when I realized it was Julian, we knew what happened, we knew who did it. There was no doubt at all.
It had to be Shabria's ex, Bruce.
The family explains that Shabria had broken up with 39-year-old Bruce Miles about a month ago in early August.
Let's be real, I never liked him. I just never seen anything positive with him.
The family states that Bruce is violent, he's abusive. She's been trying to separate from him, but he's refusing to let her go.
There had been, a history between Bruce and Shabria of physical and psychological abuse.
There was just something not right about him. He would threaten her or tell her he's gonna do this or do that, but she wasn't afraid.
I'm tired of you. I'm leaving you. I am done.
She told me she was leaving him. She made her decision and she went and followed through with it.
According to the family, though, Bruce refused to leave quietly.
Unfortunately, Bruce did not take that very well, and he became enraged and hit her.
Bruce, during that time, according to what Shabria said, had choked her, punched her, and kicked her, and thrown her down. Actually, she finally called the police. She wanted him arrested.
I'm gonna call the cops.
Go for it.
But when police finally arrived, Bruce was gone.
They were unable to apprehend him.
He still had an outstanding warrant at the time Shabria was killed.
Based on the recent breakup and the history of abuse, they feel he had both motive and proclivity to commit this crime.
He's the only one could have done it.
Still, without any hard evidence linking Bruce to the murders, detectives know they need to conduct a full investigation before jumping to conclusions.
We knew it was Bruce that did it. We told the police it was Bruce, but they said, oh, we can't just go and arrest Bruce without knowing that it's Bruce.
We're going to be investigating this further, okay?
It's a very recurring theme in homicide investigations that we targeted one individual and zeroed in on him, and we put blinders on and didn't look at anybody else.
We'll be in touch.
We do everything we can to be as objective as possible and focus on the actual evidence as opposed to, having a theory and then making our pieces fit after that.
Back at the station, detectives begin ruling out any other possible suspects.
We also looked into potential persons of interest in Julian's life, and we didn't see anything in Julian's life that would indicate to us that Julian had any enemies.
For any sign of Bruce's white sedan, detectives comb through video footage collected from surveillance cameras near the crime scene.
There was a lot of video in this case from cameras that are set up throughout certain areas of the city that SPD owns and operates, from residential cameras and business cameras.
A large part of what we do is we expand our investigation out and we track persons of interest or vehicles coming to or going from the scene before and after the crime.
When detectives start scouring through the footage, it doesn't take them long to find something.
Around 2:45 in the morning, we see a car leave from the area of Shabria's apartment. The vehicle was a white sedan.
It's the same type of car that Bruce Miles drives.
Syracuse detectives investigating the double homicide of 29-year-old Shabria Gainey and 33-year-old Julian Mansaw believe Shabria's ex, Bruce Miles, is behind the sordid crime. And they've just located surveillance footage that bolsters their theory.
Around 2:45 in the morning, we see a car leave from the area of Shabria's apartment. The vehicle was a white sedan.
It's the same type of car that Bruce Miles drives.
Using the footage obtained from other cameras across the city, detectives begin tracking the white car and recreate the path it took after leaving Shabria's apartment.
About half a mile from the crime scene, the car stopped at a local convenience store, and the driver exited the vehicle and walked inside.
The video wasn't the greatest. It was nighttime, so it's kind of hard. You can't really make out a face.
After leaving the convenience store, the driver heads south, eventually pulling over along the banks of Onondaga Creek, a shallow waterway running through the city.
Detectives now believe the murder weapon was disposed of in that creek.
Next, detectives are able to track the path from Onondaga Creek to the final destination,
which happens to be Bruce Miles' residence in South Syracuse.
The footage prompts detectives to leap into action, hoping the current hasn't carried away whatever Bruce threw into the water.
We responded down there, and it was thankfully a low tide at the time.
At first, there's not much to see.
There were a couple plastic bags from what I remember.
But further investigation reveals a treasure trove of evidence.
Sitting on top of the handle of that bag was a live .40 caliber round, and there was just a ton of ballistic evidence and gun evidence in this area.
We found multiple magazines and multiple live .40 caliber rounds of ammunition. The same caliber, kind, and color, actually, that was found where Shabria and Julian were found.
Hoping to find a literal smoking gun, detectives call in the dive team.
And they hit the jackpot.
The dive team came and found an actual firearm inside the creek, right in the same path of where we found these other particular items.
It was a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson.
Back at the station, detectives run the gun's serial number through their system.
They find out that it has been stolen from Dayton, Ohio, out of the owner's vehicle.
Unfortunately, that doesn't help link the gun to Bruce Miles.
However, the evidence is compelling enough for detectives to get a warrant to search the home Bruce shares with his mother. The white sedan is there, but Bruce is not.
When they executed the warrant, Bruce was nowhere to be found.
Inside the home, they don't uncover any evidence that directly links Bruce to the crime.
His mother stated that there was no way Bruce could have committed the murders, as he was home from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is the time frame when the murders occurred.
His mom told us that he was sleeping on the couch downstairs.
But near the front door, something catches their eye.
When we're talking to the mother, we find large suitcases in her front hallway.
There were multiple suitcases as if someone was packing for a trip.
To detectives, the discovery immediately sets off alarm bells.
That gave us a really strong indication that he was on the run.
Syracuse detectives have zeroed in on 39-year-old Bruce Miles as the prime suspect in the murders of his ex-girlfriend, Shabria Gainey, and her new boyfriend, Julian Mansaw. And after unearthing some damning evidence, police now believe Bruce is trying to evade them.
There were multiple suitcases as if someone was packing for a trip.
That gave us a really strong indication that he was on the run.
Ma'am, can we speak to you for a moment?
And even though Bruce's mother claims he was home with her all night between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m., investigators aren't buying it.
He was here last night.
We have footage that proves otherwise.
We were able to definitively say with camera footage that that's not what happened.
They have his car on surveillance, leaving Shabria's apartment complex around 3 a.m.
The detectives tell Bruce's mother about how they tracked his movements all the way to Onondaga Creek, where they found the gun that killed Shabria and Julian.
The creek was just a couple blocks from Bruce Miles' home. This is a mountain of evidence against Mr. Miles.
Where is he?
I don't know.
You sure about that?
That's when Bruce's mother starts to cave.
Okay.
She admits she gave him a ride to the bus station earlier that morning around 3:30 a.m.
However, she was unsure where he was going.
Why are these suitcases still here?
They wouldn't let him take them all.
Bruce tried to bring those suitcases with him to the transport center, but he was unable to because they only let him bring a certain number of luggage items.
Armed with this new information, detectives head to the bus station, hoping to figure out where Bruce went.
We were able to find that he had purchased a ticket at 3:30 in the morning for a bus from Syracuse to Columbus, Ohio, which is supposed to arrive at 2:10 p.m. This is right around noon that we learned this information.
With only a couple of hours before Bruce is due to arrive in Columbus, detectives quickly reach out to their counterparts in Ohio.
We were able to contact their warrant squad in Columbus, and they were gracious enough to help us take him into custody.
Officers in Ohio arrive in the nick of time, just as the bus is pulling in.
They reacted in record time, and the fact that they were able to get to the Regional Transportation Center while the perpetrator was still on the bus was incredible.
Bruce Miles. Yeah, you under arrest.
As soon as Bruce exits the bus, they're able to apprehend him and take him into custody.
He did not resist arrest. He was taken into custody without incident.
I felt like it was stupid to run. It was a lot of drama.
We were so happy that they caught him finally. That's what everybody was hoping for, because we thought he got away.
The detectives back in Syracuse are eager to speak with Bruce.
Once we learned he was in custody, we drove directly to Columbus, Ohio to attempt to interview him, and he declined our efforts to have a conversation with him.
He was subsequently extradited back to New York.
Bruce is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
First-degree murder is a rare charge in New York State, reserved for only the most heinous and serious crimes.
Murder in the first degree, you need aggravating factors. And in this particular case, the aggravating factor was that 2 people lost their lives at the same time.
But without a confession, prosecutors will have to work overtime to craft their theory of what really happened on the night of September 15th.
When he actually got into the apartment, then just rage came out.
With the help of police in Columbus, Ohio, Syracuse detectives now have Bruce Miles, their top suspect in the murders of Shabria Gainey and Julian Mansaw, in custody.
I was happy that they got him, but I was still sad because he took my best friend away.
We formally charged him with murder in the first degree because he had killed 2 people.
Bruce is held without bail until the start of the murder trial in March of 2023.
At trial, prosecutors open their case by contending that Bruce's motive couldn't be clearer. It was jealousy.
We really kind of focused on a theme and theory of jealousy. Mr. Miles was jealous that Shabria was with Julian. And because it's a circumstantial case, I really wanted the jury to see that there's nobody else who could have committed this crime. He had the motive to do it. He had the means to do it. He was in the area.
When Shabria broke up with Bruce in August 2021, he was determined to do everything to win her back.
The prosecution argues that was exactly Bruce's plan in the early morning hours of September 15th.
We found that he had made 9 phone calls to Shabria from 1 a.m. to 1:38 a.m.
The majority of them are hang-ups because they're so short. And there were a couple that were a little bit longer, so we believe that there was some sort of conversation where she's already told him, I don't want you to come over, I don't want you to call me anymore.
Hello, Sabria.
Bruce, stop calling me. Leave me alone.
According to the prosecution, after those calls, Bruce headed over to Shabria's apartment.
Mr. Miles probably had an indication that Shabria was with another man. It was my theory that he's already made up his mind as to what he's going to do.
We had a pretty good indication that the motive was, if I can't have her, no one can.
The investigators believe Bruce was able to sneak into the apartment through a window that was unlocked.
However, prosecutors say that it's less clear whether Bruce's initial intention was to kill Shabria and Julian or just to confront them.
Who is this?
I think that wasn't necessarily a crime of passion, but I believe that when he actually got into the apartment, then just rage came out.
Shut up!
The prosecution argues that Bruce lost it because what he wanted did not happen. He was super angry to find Sabria with another man.
Man, just calm down. Calm down. Calm down.
He fired off more than a dozen rounds at a defenseless Julian and Shabria, hitting them each multiple times and killing them both.
His emotional regulation was non-existent, and he was really just seeing red and seeing rage, and nothing was going to stand in his way of ending their lives.
After the shooting, he fled the scene, tossing the gun in Onondaga Creek, before heading home and plotting his escape to Ohio.
In an act of bravery, Shabria's own son, now 8 years old, takes the stand to testify about the horrors he witnessed that night.
They put him on the stand, and I think he did a great job.
He got up there like a big boy and said what he needed to say. He told what happened to his mom the best he could at. I was very proud of him that he was strong enough to get up there. And he definitely got that from his mother.
On the stand, he discusses being woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of gunshots and finding his mother and another man bleeding out on the floor.
His testimony was absolutely impactful. He was extremely brave in doing it, and it was very impactful because that bravery came out.
Everybody in the courtroom was crying. That was very, sad to put a little kid like that on the stand. But he knew the most.
The fact that he had to see it, the fact that he had to go find somebody to help him call the police, he is so strong and brave.
But when it's the defense's turn, they argue that none of the evidence is enough to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Bruce is guilty of murder.
His defense's strategy really was that Mr. Miles was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Bruce's defense also states that there's a reasonable explanation for him to have been in the apartment complex, as he has a friend that lives in the area as well, and they had plans to spend time together that night.
They said that he just sat and waited for, an hour or so, which would account for the time that he was actually there.
Will the effort to create a reasonable doubt work? After 2 days of deliberation, the jury returns with its verdict.
The jury comes back with a guilty verdict for first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and criminal possession of a weapon.
The jury was able to make the correct determination that it was Bruce Miles.
When they said guilty, it really was just a big relief because I could hear Shabria's family and Julian's family in the back start to cry, and they were obviously very emotional.
I was happy that it came back guilty.
That was a very good day, but I was very nervous. We sat there and waited and waited and waited and waited, and I just wanted to celebrate, because if this is the type of justice that we have to get, then so be it.
I knew he was going down. I was happy about that. It's the best day of my life, I felt like.
At Bruce's sentencing hearing, Shabria's family has some choice words for him.
They discuss how difficult it has been for Shabria and Julian's children to cope with the loss of their parents, especially Shabria's son, who now suffers from PTSD and night terrors.
The fact that he had to see it, the fact that he had to go find somebody to help him, the fact that he's involved, period, like, no, I'm not okay with it.
But even faced with all the grief he's caused, Bruce refuses to admit his guilt.
He told the court, I'm not going to apologize or say I'm sorry because I have nothing to be sorry about. He was very nonchalant in the courtroom. He thought he was going to get away with it.
He has no remorse. He does not care. And he's really trying to save himself.
But the judge is having none of it.
The judge was like, you don't have any remorse? And he told him he's very disappointed in him when we know that you've done this and you still have no remorse.
He was sentenced to the potential of 41 1/3 to life to 44 years to life.
Most likely, Bruce will never see life outside of prison again.
However, for those left behind, it still doesn't feel like enough.
I was glad that he was getting such a high number, and obviously he has life on the back end of it. But in my opinion, I thought he deserved life without parole.
I think he should do life. He took away a life. He took a life that didn't belong to him.
I was happy, but at the same time, like I said, it doesn't bring her back. It doesn't bring Julian back either.
Mr. Miles is where he belongs. He took away somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother. He took away a son, a brother, a father. And again, for just really no good reason.
Whenever somebody loses their life, there's always more than one victim, especially in this case. Anybody who loved Julian or anybody who loved Shabria, they're also victims, and especially Shabria's son.
He's strong. He's in counseling. He didn't really talk too much before, and now he opens up and talks.
He's doing very good. Better than I thought he would. He's doing great.
I have this huge picture in my room of Shabria, the beautifulest picture ever. And when I feel down or whatever, I may talk to that picture, let her know how much I miss her. And I wish she was here. I would give her a big old hug and a kiss and tell her I love her so much.
There's so much she's missing that she should be here for. We all miss her down here. Yeah, she's missed a lot. It has devastated us all in some form and fashion.
And the family has sage advice for other women who find themselves in a similar predicament.
Any red flags of abuse or a bad relationship, just run. We have other women in our family. I try to tell them, learn from what happened to Shabria. Just get out.
He'd always been a country boy.
Our farm was out in the boondocks.
It's a rural farming town.
He loved his fishing. He loved hunting.
But when it came to romance, he never quite hit the target.
He just couldn't find the right person.
He'd been married and divorced 3 times.
And he would never get another chance.
This man was murdered in his bed.
Shot with a shotgun at close range.
It was execution style.
Was it simply a robbery gone horribly wrong?
In a rural area, people don't lock their front door.
But why would they have targeted my brother out of the blue? Didn't make any sense.
Or was it all part of an elaborate plot?
Whoever did this
It's time to put it on me.
With toxic relationships, it's very difficult to get out.
Like a stick of dynamite with the fuse lit.
March 24th, 2000. It's Friday morning in Atchison, Kansas, a town of 10,000 an hour northwest of Kansas City.
Atchison is a pretty small town compared to Kansas City, mostly a farming, rural area.
People know their neighbors and are involved with what's going on around them and, try and look out for each other.
But this spring morning, one Atchison woman is looking for her son, 38-year-old Kurt Boldridge.
Kurt told his family that he was going on a fishing trip the previous weekend, but his mom hadn't heard from him since.
It wasn't normal for her to not hear from him, so she was very concerned for his safety.
She called police to do a welfare check.
Please, I'm really worried about him.
I remember it plainly as day. We got the radio dispatch for a check the welfare, and we all headed that way. Everybody knew the Boldridge family.
When officers showed up, everything looked normal. They knock, they try and get inside.
Kurt, you in there?
The door is locked, and there's no answer.
They did not have a key, so they found a window and they broke it out so they could get inside the house.
And when they get inside of his home, they realize that there was a problem.
There was a huge amount of flies in the house.
But the flies weren't the worst of it.
Something's not right here, man.
There was a distinct smell of death.
It's not a smell that people forget.
Kurt Boldridge was a country boy at heart.
Mom and Dad were from Atchison, but our farm was located about 30 miles west, out in the country. So he loved his fishing, he loved hunting.
And Kurt was always on the hunt for a good time.
If we decided we were going to go fishing one day, even if it was just a hunting trip, he would make it so much fun that you didn't care if you got to shoot at anything or not, because you'd just be sitting there cracking up.
He was just kind of the life of the party and just like it's fun to be around.
Kurt married his high school sweetheart after graduation, but it didn't last.
They were married for a few years before they got divorced.
Then, after his marriage fell apart, Kurt moved into town and took a job at the local steel mill.
He started working at the Atchison Foundry.
The money was good, but that wasn't the only benefit of moving to town.
You would see him in the club on Friday night. If there was fun to be had, Kurt would be the one to get it started.
How y'all doing tonight?
He had a stereo system, and he would go and DJ parties and stuff like that.
That's how, in 1984, Kurt met Lisa Turpin.
Hey,
Hi,
I'm Kurt.
I'm Lisa. Do you take requests?
Whatever you want, the answer is yes.
Lisa and Kurt met in their early 20s.
She was a farm girl from just across the river in Missouri, but ended up in Atchison looking for a little bit more excitement.
Lisa was a very free spirit, just a party girl.
What are you doing after this?
Like I said, whatever you want.
It very quickly became a whirlwind romance.
I can remember a few times they would come out to the house, and Lisa seemed to just be as nice and pretty a girl as you ever wanted to meet.
But then their whirlwind romance turned serious.
A few months after meeting, Lisa got pregnant.
After having their son, they got married within 4 months.
But like his first marriage, Kurt and Lisa's ended in divorce.
He was not lucky in love.
But while the divorce ended the marriage, it wasn't the end of Kurt and Lisa's relationship.
They were still kind of back and forth in one another's lives.
They did have a son together, so it was like From the time he met her, there was never a moment in it she wasn't involved.
They even dated one another on and off after the divorce.
But none of their attempts at reconciliation ever stuck. And by 1998, Kurt had met someone new. Her name was Julie Wilson.
Julie was the ex-wife of Kurt's friend, Mr. Wilson. And when Mr. Wilson went to prison, Julie and Kurt got a lot closer.
Mr. Boldridge was a stand-up guy, so he stepped in and he helped out.
Kurt would take the couple's son fishing and hunting.
You're such a lifesaver. He's really been missing his dad, so this is going to mean a lot to him.
Yeah, of course. Anything you need, just let me know.
He just wanted to kind of be that father figure for that child while his friend was gone. But, you know, when you spend a lot of time with people, feelings do start to develop.
Those feelings of closeness eventually blossomed into a full-fledged romance.
They eventually ended up getting married while Mr. Wilson was still in prison.
Kurt's family was happy for him.
I did not know her before he and her got together, but I was all thumbs up for them.
But for Kurt, the third time still wasn't the charm.
They were married for about a year. It was very short-lived.
He just couldn't find the right person to kind of help make his happily ever after dream come true.
So Kurt decided to take a break from love and put that energy into himself.
He bought a piece of property and started construction on his own house.
And then look at this.
He was a carpenter, he was a painter.
I can put the DJ stuff here. You can put the grill right here, and the kids, whenever they come, go right there.
Man, you did all of this?
Well, yeah.
I am proud of you, man. This is gorgeous.
It was going to be his little piece of paradise.
But now, after Kurt's family has lost contact with him for several days, sheriff's deputies have forced entry into the house and been met with an overwhelming stench of decay.
Something's not right here, man. It's pretty obvious to everybody that there's a deceased person.
We need some gloves on.
It was a death that had apparently been there for a while.
I need some air.
One person even had to step out of the house because of just the strength of the scent.
Tracing the smell to the bedroom, the remaining deputy locates the source of the odor.
They found the body laying in bed.
His body was underneath a blue comforter.
He had been shot in the head.
After his third divorce, Kurt Boldridge was taking a little time to himself.
He was ready to just kind of live his own life.
And then look at this.
He built his own home and was getting back to his rural roots.
You can put the grill right here.
That took him away from the real world, so to speak.
But now a sheriff's deputy has found a dead man inside the house that Kurt built.
He'd been shot at close range with a shotgun.
He was laying in bed in a pool of blood.
There was blood spatter on the headboard, which indicated that he was shot in that location.
The body had actually been decomposing for at least a week.
And when the homicide detectives arrive on the scene, one of them confirms that the dead man is indeed Kurt.
I knew the victim very closely. He worked with my father and brother.
The detectives also determined that Kurt's death is a homicide.
If the weapon's absent, then you know that it was not a suicide. And a blanket had been placed over Mr. Boldridge post-mortem. That is, after he was shot, somebody covered him.
So they knew that they had a homicide investigation on their hands.
It was execution-style murder at close range.
Definitely shotgun.
Detectives believe the murder weapon was a 20-gauge shotgun.
Numerous shotgun shells on the dresser in the bedroom. There was, I believe, 2 boxes and 3 shells standing upright. Also, one of the deputies located a 20 gauge spent shotgun shell outside the back door of the residence, about 7 feet out from the door.
However, despite the number of 20 gauge shells in the house, detectives can't locate a gun to match.
Which suggests the killer may have taken the weapon with them.
But how the killer got in the house isn't clear.
There was no sign of forced entry.
Does that rule out a random intruder?
In a rural area, even today, oftentimes people don't lock their front door. Back in 2000, that was even more common. It could be that a random person came in and committed a homicide and then locked the door on their way out.
It's also unclear whether Kurt had been robbed.
They found his home to be disheveled.
But other than the shotgun, nothing of value appeared to be missing.
Hoping to find out who might have a score to settle with Kurt, the detectives turned to the dead man's family, who began gathering at the scene.
While police worked the scene, Kurt's mother had been getting the word out to everyone.
My mom was just distraught, crying, couldn't hardly breathe, couldn't hardly talk. And I said, well, you know, what the hell's wrong? And she said, I don't know how to tell you, but they just found Kurt. So from there, I hopped in the truck, went up to my brother's house.
And the family has no doubt who's to blame.
I said, she finally killed him, didn't she?
They immediately pointed fingers at his second wife, Lisa.
Man, ain't no doubt in my mind that Lisa's behind all of this.
Why do you say that?
Because their relationship was so toxic.
Their relationship was like oil and water, really. It just never mixed, never gelled well. There was always that explosive portion of it.
People in town knew it. All their close friends knew it.
Local law enforcement knew it too.
We answered a numerous amount of calls for domestic issues down at the house.
Despite that, the couple could never quite quit one another.
Even when they divorced or broke up, whatever, they were never apart because she would not allow them to be apart.
Had kind of an off and on relationship. She may move there for a while, then move out again.
His family had tried to shake him and let him know that Lisa is just not the right person for you.
We would ask him, what is wrong with you? Why can't you get away from this woman?
According to the family, the relationship drama was all Lisa's doing.
You would hear of her cutting tires, busting out car windows, marking cars, vehicles up with paint, or scratching them down the side.
And she always came up with new ways to take her anger out on Kurt.
And it had escalated from maybe just popping a tire to literally trying to burn down a house.
And now Kurt's family is convinced that Lisa had taken her anger towards Kurt to the next level.
His family had no doubt in their mind that Lisa was the person who killed Kurt.
100%. There was no question in my mind.
That put her at the very top of the list of being a prime suspect.
When the detectives bring her in, Lisa admits that her relationship with Kurt had been chaotic.
I mean, I loved him. I'd never actually hurt him.
She denied all involvement.
However, she does say she knows someone who could be involved.
You guys should talk to Kirk Wilson.
Mr. Wilson was the man whose wife had left him for Kurt when he got locked up.
It was bound to bring about some sort of jealousy.
And according to Lisa, Kirk had just gotten out of prison.
According to Kurt Boldridge's ex-wife, Lisa, the man whose wife left him to marry Kurt has just been released from prison.
According to Lisa, she believed that he may be responsible for Kurt's murder.
His name is Kirk Wilson.
Mr. Wilson and Kurt had known each other for a long time.
He is also well known to local law enforcement.
Wilson used to be a very upstanding citizen in the community. He was a city superintendent for the city of Atchison.
But then he got hooked on drugs and turned to crime to feed his addiction.
He actually physically made his father go to a bank and withdraw, I believe it was around $6,000 for him. He went to prison for that.
But according to Lisa, the fact that Kirk Wilson is out of prison isn't the only reason she suspects he's Kurt's killer.
She says that hanging out one night, he came to her and let her know that he had a gun that he needed to dispose of.
Did he tell you why?
No, he just needed a ride, and I didn't ask any questions.
She says that she didn't ask any questions, but she went with him to dispose of the gun in the Missouri River.
But then I heard about Kurt, and I put two and two together.
What kind of gun was it?
It was a shotgun.
The detectives suspected that the murder weapon was a shotgun, a detail that the public had not been aware of yet.
Does that mean Lisa is telling the truth?
So why would Wilson kill Kurt?
I mean, he stole Julie from him.
She told to police the nature of Mr. Wilson's rocky relationship with Kurt, as Kurt ended up marrying Mr. Wilson's ex-wife.
They actually got married while he was in prison.
That can leave room for some hostility and some anger because I'm sure Kirk Wilson felt lines were crossed there.
It was an explosive situation.
And now that Wilson's out of prison, Lisa suspects he'd come for revenge.
But Wilson didn't tell you he killed Kurt, right?
No, but I bet he did, him and his buddies.
She told us names we should look at.
They are 32-year-old Johnny Goodpasture and 31-year-old Gary Skeen.
They were both friends of Mr. Wilson.
They're also well known to local law enforcement.
Johnny Goodpasture, he was always in the spotlight of being in crime in the community. Gary Skeen, he was another one that was always involved in a lot of crime.
So law enforcement weren't shocked or surprised that they may have been involved in this.
After talking to Lisa, the detectives decide to bring all three men in for questioning.
Law enforcement's going to have to figure out if they had an alibi, if they had a motive, if there was a reason for them to be implicated.
Detectives make little headway with Skeen or Wilson.
Gary Skeen, he lawyered up on us. And then Kirk Wilson was advised by his attorney not to talk to us, so we weren't able to get an interview with him.
However, despite his familiarity with the criminal justice system, Johnny Goodpasture does talk to detectives.
He denied all involvement.
He also agreed to take a polygraph, which he failed.
So we knew there's some information out there he wasn't telling us.
But the detectives are a long way from making any arrests.
Polygraph tests can't be introduced in court. So officers and law enforcement, they'll use it as a guide to see where they need to go. But it really isn't something that you can use to prove your case.
The forensics results from the crime scene don't give detectives much to work with either.
If we had sent all the evidence off to get it examined by the KBI, there was one item came back with Lisa's fingerprints on it, but we knew she was in the house, so she could have touched anything at any time. We didn't have the gun to go off of. We didn't have much.
To break the stalemate, detectives return to Lisa with a bold request.
They asked Lisa to call Kirk on a recorded line.
To the detective's surprise, Lisa agrees.
She tells Mr. Wilson that the detectives had been asking her questions about him.
They ran me through the ringer.
But if the detectives hoped Wilson would say something incriminating, they're disappointed.
Whoever did this, it's time to put it on me.
The phone call with Wilson a bust. The detectives are back to square one.
We just continued to gather evidence, try to find what we could.
But just as it looks like the investigation is going nowhere, they learned some explosive information.
We found out Lisa had called the Social Security office to inquire about death benefits for her son.
Considering Kurt was dead, that wouldn't have been suspicious if it weren't for one thing.
She did it before his body was found.
Detectives investigating the murder of Kurt Boldridge have learned that his ex-wife Lisa had recently looked into his death benefits.
A financial motive is very common in homicide cases. So if a potential suspect is found to have been making inquiries about the very thing that they would have benefited from, then that's highly suspicious.
It's even more suspicious when the inquiry is made before the murder occurs.
We know for a fact that she had made that phone call to Social Security before Kurt Boldridge was ever killed.
Why would you be asking me about that unless she was involved?
Thinking they might have uncovered a motive for murder, the detectives follow up with the local Social Security office.
According to the clerk that spoke with Lisa, it was a fairly routine call.
She had reached out to see how much money and benefits her son would get in the event of Kurt's death.
But the clerk also tells him that it wasn't just Kurt's son who would benefit.
Since he was a minor and Lisa was his custodial parent, she would get the money until he turned 18.
Does that mean Lisa killed Kurt for the money? To detectives, it's beginning to look that way.
That's definitely going to be an important piece of circumstantial evidence. So law enforcement at that point is looking to corroborate or disprove that.
Detectives begin by heading to the spot where Lisa claims she'd taken Wilson to toss the shotgun.
Lisa told us that Kurt Wilson threw the gun in the river about a half mile up from Leavenworth.
It's hard to prove a murder without a murder weapon. So police definitely wanted to make sure that they found that.
We made numerous attempts with the Lee Summit dive team to retrieve the gun from the river.
But the exhaustive search fails.
The gun was never located.
Which leaves detectives wondering, was Lisa's story about Wilson even true in the first place?
When law enforcement's given alternative suspects by somebody, that could be a deflection, it could be, it wasn't me, but it was somebody else.
Wilson's criminal record and history with Kurt also made him an ideal scapegoat.
Maybe Wilson was telling the truth at that phone call the detectives were listening to, when he told Lisa someone was trying to frame him for the murder.
That seems even more likely to detectives when Kurt's family brings them a series of audio tapes they've just discovered.
After you guys released the crime scene to us, we found these.
Oh, okay. What are these?
Kurt has been recording all of their fights.
Can we hang on to those?
Yeah, no problem.
Through those tapes, they were able to hear exactly what Kurt's family had been detailing for so long about the nature of their relationship.
A lot of it was having to do with them talking about the damage to the vehicle and stuff.
Are you gonna keep busting people's stuff from?
She would deny it all. And, you know, every time he would accuse her of something, she'd just go off the deep end of screaming and yelling to him.
It really kind of showcased the nature of their relationship and the volatility of it, especially from Lisa's end.
You're very dangerous.
She finally told him in so many words that she would hurt him.
You double-crossed me again, and your time is ticking.
When you're caught on audio saying these things, it's really hard to dispute that this is not action that you plan to take.
After listening to the tapes, detectives bring Lisa back for another round of questioning.
All right, Lisa, we heard the tapes. We heard how you talked to Kurt. Why don't you just tell us what happened?
You're not listening to me. I've already told you who I thought did it.
She really took it above and beyond to say it was not me, it was these three guys, Kurt Wilson and his two friends.
Like, if you want me to wear a wire again, I will, but...
How about you just take a polygraph instead?
Sure?
Okay, yeah.
Lisa says she has nothing to hide, but the polygraph says different.
She did end up failing all of the questions on the test.
Like Johnny Goodpasture, the failed polygraph alone isn't enough to place Lisa under arrest.
But unlike Johnny, The polygraph isn't all the detectives have on her.
Lisa had been violent towards Mr. Boldridge in the past.
There were also inquiries about the Social Security benefits and the audio tapes of Lisa threatening Kurt's life.
One piece of circumstantial evidence stacked on another, and you add in a strong financial motive, then you really start to build a credible suspect. And it appears that all the signs were pointing towards Lisa.
The decision was made by Assistant County Attorney at that time to move forward and to get an arrest warrant for Lisa Boldridge.
On June 29, 2000, Lisa Boldridge is booked into the Atchison County Jail.
When the polygraph was over, we told her she was under arrest for first-degree murder.
Stand up.
Lisa's left speechless at the news.
She was a very controlling type of individual, thinking that she was in control of what was going to happen. And now that she was going to go to jail, I mean, she was just stunned because she had no idea that we was going to arrest her.
For Kurt's family, the arrest is a confirmation of what they suspected all along.
Everybody breathed a sigh of relief. I believe the whole community was like, oh, they finally got her.
But had they arrested the right person? More than a month after Lisa's arrest, detectives get a surprise visit from a woman named Tina Wilson.
Tina had recently married Kirk Wilson, the man Lisa said had killed Kurt.
And she has quite a story for the detectives.
Apparently, Mr. Wilson and his friend Johnny Goodpasture recently had a falling out.
Kirk Wilson accused Johnny Goodpasture of having an affair with his wife.
And according to Tina, Wilson had also threatened Johnny.
And he said, I'm gonna kill you, like I killed Kurt.
Get out of here!
More than a month after detectives arrested Lisa Boldridge for the murder of her ex-husband, his friend Kirk Wilson's wife has come forward claiming the ex-con is telling people he killed Kurt.
Mr. Wilson is who Lisa had accused of being Kurt's killer.
Was it possible Lisa had been telling the truth all along?
You know, good investigators follow the evidence wherever it leads.
Detectives' first question for Tina is what led to the falling out and the subsequent threat against Johnny's life.
He thought we were sleeping together.
He was over at the house, and Kirk came home and was very upset with Johnny Goodpasture.
Hey, what is going on here? What are y'all doing behind my back? You're supposed to be my friend.
Wilson's wife denied that there was anything going on between her and Johnny.
But that's not what Wilson thought.
I'm gonna kill you!
Johnny actually jumped out the window of the house to get away.
Yeah, you better run. Get out of here!
Wilson threatened to kill him, just like he killed Kurt.
According to Tina, he said the same to her.
There was an altercation between the two of them where he threatened her.
I'm gonna kill you too, and get away with it.
Tina felt afraid and out of fear came forward with that information.
Detectives suspect she's telling the truth.
Wilson threatening Johnny for stealing his girl sounded a lot like what Lisa said was his motive for killing Kurt.
Detectives also suspect Johnny Goodpasture will now be willing to cooperate.
Johnny was arrested on unrelated drug charges.
It's not uncommon for people facing other charges to offer their services in other cases.
Hoping he'll be willing to talk, the detectives go to the jail and haul Johnny into the interview room.
And then they apply a little leverage.
We told Johnny Goodpasture that he was going to get charged with murder.
I told y'all I didn't kill him.
Well, then tell us who did.
Facing a possible murder charge, Johnny comes clean.
He told us that Gary Skeen was involved. He told us Kirk Wilson was involved. He told us Lisa Boldridge was involved.
Lisa was going on and on about Kurt, the way she did.
She was very belligerent, very manipulative.
What do you mean manipulative?
She said we should go over there and teach him a lesson.
Lisa was the ringleader of this whole thing?
The original plan was just to rough Mr. Boldridge up.
Johnny says that after a little goading by Lisa, they'd all gone over to Kurt's house.
She had a key to the house.
She let the 3 others inside.
So you thought you were just going to go over there and beat him up?
Yeah.
But according to Johnny, Lisa wanted more.
She wanted him dead.
Here.
There was a 20-gauge shotgun leaning against the wall. Lisa picked the shotgun up and just tossed it to Kirk Wilson.
So Wilson did it.
As far as I know.
Johnny says he wasn't in the room when Kurt was killed.
But between his story and the evidence at the scene, the detectives have a pretty good idea what happened when Lisa and Wilson slipped into Kurt's bedroom.
We believe he was asleep in bed. Kirk Wilson held the gun about 18 inches from the side of his head and says, "Wake up," or something like that.
Then as soon as Kurt opened his eyes,
Wilson pulled the trigger and shot him.
Assuming Johnny's story is true, it gives detectives enough to charge Lisa's co-conspirator, Kirk Wilson, with murder.
She got these 3 guys together.
She tossed the shotgun to Kirk Wilson.
Lisa was the person who wanted Mr. Boldridge dead, and there was evidence that she manipulated other people to actually pull the trigger.
Detectives believe that Kirk Wilson was easily manipulated because he had his own reasons to want Kurt dead.
Only it wasn't the reason the detectives figured.
Wilson said Kurt had it coming.
On account of Kurt stealing his wife? Is that what you're saying?
No, because of what Kurt did to his son.
Johnny Goodpasture has just told the detectives investigating Kurt Boldridge's murder that Kurt's ex-wife Lisa was behind the crime.
He told everything that happened, that Lisa had a key and that she invited the 3 of them in, that she gave them the shotgun to be used.
Johnny also claims that it was Kurt's former friend, Kirk Wilson, who pulled the trigger.
but he says it wasn't because Kurt had married Wilson's wife while he was in prison.
So it wasn't jealousy?
No. Lisa told Wilson that Kurt had abused his son.
So that sent Mr. Wilson into a rage, and they hatched a plan to get revenge.
I didn't know he was gonna kill him, though.
Johnny Goodpasture and Gary Skeen understood that they was going down to hurt Kurt Boldridge.
And Lisa also told them that Kurt kept drugs in the house.
So they went along for the chance to be able to just get some free drugs.
According to Johnny, that had turned out to be a lie.
What'd you do?
He had it coming.
What about our payment?
There's nothing here. Let's go.
There were no drugs in the house.
But now the detectives need to determine if Johnny is telling them the truth.
He was dishonest with police on several instances, and he had his own incentives to provide information.
He tried to leverage the information that he knew about Kirk Boldridge's murder to actually lessen his time that he was facing for his drug charge.
So after Mr. Goodpasture's admission, police give him a polygraph test.
And this time, he passes it.
He was telling the truth.
The only thing the detectives can't corroborate is Lisa's claim that Kurt had abused his stepson.
Lisa just made all that story up just to really upset Kirk Wilson.
She fabricated those things to get those people to do what she didn't have the guts to do herself.
After hearing Johnny's confession, detectives arrest Kirk Wilson on murder charges.
They also arrest Gary Skeen, who accompanied Lisa, Wilson, and Johnny to Kurt's house that night.
We had all the subjects spread between Donovan County, Atchison County, and Leavenworth County in different jail cells, so they couldn't talk.
Which means that when Lisa goes on trial in January of 2001, Johnny Goodpasture is the only one of the conspirators who testifies against her.
The prosecutors laid out all the evidence before the judge. Lisa's long, turbulent relationship with Kurt, the threatening phone calls, and her inquiry about the death benefits.
Then they put Johnny Goodpasture on the stand to testify about how Lisa had manipulated Kirk Wilson into committing the crime.
During the trial, he said she was able to control and manipulate to get what she wanted by use of false allegations of abuse of a child.
The claims that she had made about what my brother had done never happened.
It shows how skilled she is in manipulating and masterminding.
When it's the defense's turn, Lisa's attorneys do their best to discredit Johnny's testimony.
He'd been dishonest with police, so the impeachment line is obviously, were you lying then? Are you lying now? Are you lying all the time?
The defense also suggests that while Lisa may have been at the house that night, she was just a bystander and never intended for Kurt to die.
What did you do?
He had it coming.
I believe wholeheartedly that she thought to the core that she was going to walk free.
But she's wrong.
She was convicted in a matter of hours over what testimony we put on.
The judge sentences Lisa to life in prison. But she will be eligible for parole after serving 25 years.
When she first comes up for parole, I imagine the parole board will still look at it carefully, and the family will have the right to send letters in, and the parole board will make its decision.
There is so much frustration. There is so much pent-up anger. There's so much hatred. I don't know how anyone could expect me or my family, if she gets released, to walk down any street and never see that woman's face again, knowing what she done to my brother.
The other three conspirators are already out of prison.
Goodpasture got the lightest sentence, 24 months, because he, helped the police.
He pled guilty to burglary charges.
Gary Skeen also took a plea deal.
He got 14 years in prison.
And Kirk Wilson, who actually pulled the trigger, goes to trial and is found guilty of murder.
Kirk Wilson was actually given, I believe, 20 years in prison. He got out a little good time credit.
So Mr. Wilson was released on parole in 2019.
I've driven through these streets and I have seen Kurt Wilson's face, the man that has actually pulled the trigger on my brother. To not get out and retaliate against him is a pretty good exercise in self-control. But vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So I'm going to let him try to handle it his way.
But it will never make up for what Lisa did to Kurt.
Because of what Lisa did, his kid has been without a father for the last 25 years. A family has lost a person who can never be replaced.
Years later, it's still hard sitting here in his seat talking about my brother. That's the kind of impact that he left on pretty much everybody that he touched in life. He was like the good guy. He was an all-around good person. And, the old adage, only the good die young. He was a hell of a guy.
Reverend Abraham Kennard is a preacher's preacher.
He's charismatic, raising your hope level to a point.
He's more than a minister. He's a visionary.
I really thought it was going to be a blessing for pastors all over America.
What we're doing has never been done before. His prophecy, giving pastors everywhere the money they need and more to do God's work.
Abraham Kennard realized that African American pastors had a difficulty getting a bank loan.
He gave a check to them for $50,000. But what Kennard will do with their money is anything but godly.
You've been bamboozled.
You're talking about 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 churches.
that was sold down the river.
I had a vision. Ministry go forth, people are blessed.
In January 1964, at the age of 10, native Philadelphian Michael Jones awoke to darkness.
Lost my sight on the operating table.
Jones would overcome his fear of the darkness by discovering the ham radio. The excited teen began to broadcast Sunday evening sermons from his neighborhood storefront church.
That was like the biggest thing, called WJRS, Jones Radio Station.
For the next 25 years, Jones' interest turns into a passion for the media.
After seeing how so many ministers and pastors wanted to reach out over the radio and television so that they could spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, I had an idea.
By 1990, the seeds of Restoration Multimedia Network were planted. On a warm summer day in 2001, Michael Jones hears of a financial opportunity as he's walking out of a church service.
I heard a group of people talking about an opportunity where you can get involved and you could be positioned to get grant money to help your church or your nonprofit organization.
Jones immediately thinks of his dream for Restoration Multimedia Network.
What I visualized in my mind was being able to have a communication school where primarily underprivileged youth, some people from the disabled community, and get them working in the media area.
His interest piqued. Jones wants to know more about this amazing financial opportunity and who's behind it.
They told me that I needed to show up at a meeting to really get the details.
150 miles away in Woodbridge, Virginia, Pastor Donald Downing is overseeing his Heart to Heart Christian Center. His fledgling ministry needs everything from chairs to new carpet. He also wants to change locations.
We knew we had to get out of that area that we were in.
Being short on money is nothing new to Downing. He was born in small-town Oklahoma to a large family of 12 brothers and 2 sisters. With a family that size, funds were always tight.
We lived out in the country, very poor, but rich in love. I became a musician, learned music, because we didn't have much else to do out there.
He leaves Oklahoma in 1964, traveling out east to D.C. and New York. By 1984, Downing decides to settle in Virginia. After years of studying the Word of God on his own, he becomes a minister. In 1994, he opens the Heart to Heart Christian Center. But heart and hard work aren't enough to keep the ministry going. So when a longtime friend and fellow minister tells him about an investment opportunity, Donald thinks this could be just the break his ministry needs. After all, the man with the plan has a prophet's name, Abraham. Last name, Kennard. Born in 1958 in Houston, Texas, Abraham Kennard is a magnetic speaker whose big ideas are rivaled only by his bigger personality. He knows how to get what he wants.
Rule number one for any manipulator is to make sure that they're exerting that power of persuasion, that they're pulling people in. But they have to do it in just the right way and not alienate people.
But Kennard, the self-proclaimed entrepreneur, didn't always preach God's word, nor always do God's work.
Because I don't know about you, but I was on my way to heaven.
After a 7-day fast, Abraham Kennard has a divine vision from God and moves to Wildwood, Georgia.
I begin to see the works of the Master's hand. For that I'm grateful.
Now settled in Georgia, Kennard looks for ways to do God's work, his way. The self-proclaimed entrepreneur of God will call his first Christian retreat Safe Haven. He knows that hardworking clergy need a place to get away and refresh from time to time. A retreat as grand as his vision would need a lot of money to get it going.
He had advertised in the Chattanooga newspaper looking for investors to invest with him and receive significant returns.
Unable to get any investors to fund Safe Haven, and with no other source of income, Kennard declares bankruptcy in 1999. The entrepreneur isn't out for long. In 2000, he establishes the Network International Investment Corporation, or NIIC, to sell his Christian retreat idea again. But this time, the retreats target religious leaders. He still needs the seed money to fund the project. Now he approaches influential preachers with big ministries and a far reach.
Abraham Kennard realized that African American pastors had a difficulty getting a bank loan.
In early 2002, at a church in Philadelphia, Michael Jones is eager to hear about Kennard's plan. His wife Joanne goes with him to the meeting and describes the surroundings.
I heard a lot of voices, and I wanted to know approximately how many people in this room. And I was told about a couple hundred.
Jones immediately feels the enthusiasm in the room.
The energy was high. People were excited.
Kennard would not be present for this meeting. Instead, a pastor and his wife will present the program. The buy-in is straightforward.
For every $3,000 they paid to him in membership fees, they were going to receive $500,000 in grant money.
And those who are present today could reap huge rewards by investing in what Kennard calls the Church Project. Not only would members own shares, they would partake in the tax incentive.
We're going to make money building the resorts. Instead of paying the taxes, we pass it on to you.
When someone is promising you great returns with very little risk, run the other way.
The lure of big money with little risk looks promising to a cash-strapped do-gooder like Jones.
They told me there was a person who had a relationship with very, very wealthy people here in the USA.
Abraham Kennard is that person. He says he has wealthy connections.
Now's the time to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity.
Jones thinks his media school for disadvantaged and handicapped kids is exactly the kind of CDC, or Community Development Corporation, that these donors might want to help.
Within 30 days, I made a decision to go back, pay the money to get the assistance to form the CDC.
Pastor Donald Downing attends a meeting in Woodbridge, Virginia. This time, Kennard is actually there. Pastors see firsthand that the program works. The atmosphere is electric.
You got choirs singing, he's preaching, and he's laying hands on people and praying for them.
But the most crucial part of the night for Downing is to come.
And Angela got to meet him, and he presented the program from the pulpit.
But even with all the flair, Downing needs to see a true blessing from God to be convinced. Next, news of Kennard's money-making plan is spreading like wildfire.
I got a call from a pastor in Colorado, and he shared with me about this investment.
And interest in it snowballs.
Once he started giving those checks, I said, this is it.
Reverend Abraham Kennard's Church Project is rapidly catching the attention of pastors across the country.
What you gonna say now?
In Woodbridge, Virginia, Pastor John Payton oversees his ministry. It's not a megachurch, but his Reconciliation Community Church continues to grow and is financially stable.
We went from shopping center to school, and then finally we established our own grounds, and we have a church that is debt-free.
Pastor Payton gets wind of an amazing investment opportunity from a trusted colleague.
I got a call from a pastor in Colorado, and he shared with me about this investment.
Payton asks who's behind the program. The reply, Abraham Kennard. By February 2002, Reverend Downing's church is hurting badly. The chance to turn $3,000 into a $500,000 windfall is starting to sound like a potential miracle. There's an upcoming meeting in Florida, and this time, everyone pays their own way.
So I said, I'll use my money, to do what we need to do down there. Once you get down there, you didn't pay for anything.
Kennard spares no expense, giving his guests the royal treatment.
He wooed us. I mean, the best hotel. The food was just excellent. I mean, filet mignon, anything that you wanted. And everything was plush.
It's not just the luxurious setting that gets Downing excited.
But you can imagine 2,000 people in a room. And everybody, prayer, praising the Lord, the choir singing, great choir.
And it's not just ministers from small-town America.
Pastor from Canada, from Australia, you know, California, all over the United States, Mexico.
Faithfully, they all come to partake in Kennard's resort promised land that offers a big payout. As the music swells, so do expectations. Then, Kennard takes the stage. Soon, he's mesmerizing his audience. Kennard is cunning in how he chooses to motivate potential buy-ins.
He showed us the land, plan of the land, the buildings plan, the blueprints.
Kennard's combination of the official-looking blueprints and the promise of big money payouts are powerful incentives. And Kennard's final move that night is guaranteed to convince wavering investors like Downing.
He would have these big checks, 3 feet, 4 feet wide, just like they do on television.
Giant payouts to
Cleveland,
the early
Ohio
investors.
is a rugged Rust Belt town, built on manufacturing and big
The
industry.
promoter is able to continually bring in new funds to sort of pay the returns that the older investors began to depend on. That Ponzi scheme could presumably last for quite some time. People don't complain when they're getting their interest payments.
This is all Downing needs to see.
I didn't commit until he started giving checks out. Once he started giving those checks, I said, this is it.
In Philadelphia, Michael Jones is ready to make his move, but he wants to meet Abraham Kennard before committing his money.
Mr. Kennard himself did not do a lot of the pitches to the individual churches.
Really successful Ponzi schemes to some degree depend on having soldiers below, affiliates below.
Kennard's plan is to recruit high-profile pastors to his team.
Kennard knows full well that he's
Cleveland,
getting
Ohio is a rugged Rust Belt town.
But he seems so egocentric that he may actually think he's doing them a favor.
With their contacts and their reputation in the Church of God community, when they put forth Mr. Kennard's efforts, that's when it spread like wildfire, because folks trusted those individuals.
He's been hedging for weeks, but if Jones wants in, he must act fast.
They were saying, you got to get this money in. You got to get, because we don't know how long this door's going to be open.
Jones and his wife have scraped together their own money to come up with the cash for the initial investment of $3,000.
I had to generate that money, put money aside, and pull it together.
Jones has complete faith that the program and the money will grow. He has no idea how Kennard is spending his hard-earned cash. Coming up, as Kennard ramps up the pressure on investors to recruit more people for the plan.
It was money, money, money at all times. Money, 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 money.
Big returns aren't the only thing Kennard is selling.
Look, Abraham Kennard just prayed with me on the phone.
By April 2002, the Reverend Donald Downing has invested about $5,000 in Abraham Kennard's church project. Downing believes so strongly in Kennard's financial plan that he begins recruiting as many new members as he can.
Once I became convinced, I jumped in with both feet. I got on the phone, calling people.
Kennard makes it worthwhile to recruit new members.
Mr. Kennard would pay those affiliates $500 for every $3,000 membership that they brought in.
Downing's recruiting efforts and the new members he's bringing in get Kennard's attention. The two strike up a friendly relationship over the phone. Talking to Kennard is an ego boost for the pastor.
And here's a man that got all this organization, all these people, but yet he got time to call me. And that meant something, you know.
Abraham Kennard is someone who essentially is able to look into the face of someone who completely trusts him and lie to your face, but at the same time engendering a certain level of trust.
As he spreads the word about the program, Downing begins making big plans for his own church, even though he has yet to see 1 cent from Kennard.
Kennard was preaching on faith. All you got to do is have faith and wait.
But by early 2002, some of the faithful have finally started to question their leader, and the FBI begins receiving calls.
I received a call from the Better Business Bureau in Chattanooga. They were receiving phone calls from pastors throughout the country inquiring about Mr. Kennard's business endeavors and whether they were legitimate or not.
A background check reveals a not-so-godly Kennard, with 2 bankruptcies and a criminal past. At age 22, police arrested Kennard for robbing a man at gunpoint. But Kennard got lucky. The judge spared him prison time and gave him 10 years of probation. Kennard doesn't stay out of trouble long. Within 5 years, he violates the terms of his probation by writing a bad check. Not so lucky this time around. The bad check charge lands him in jail for 7 months. Kennard will soon prove his ways have not changed. In spring of 2002, Michael Jones attends a packed meeting at a church in Philadelphia.
When people begin to complain, that's only after they haven't been paid, some time has passed, and then they get to panic mode.
It's only been a few months since he gave his money to Kennard. For others, it's been much longer. Those people are anxious to find out when they're going to receive an initial payment. But Kennard is not present to answer. Instead, like the first meeting Michael went to, the pastor explains how the funds are given out.
It had a lot to do with what you were going to do with the money. If somebody was going to use the money for housing, maybe that person would get their money first.
Though no checks are being handed out at this meeting, photos are shown of people receiving big payoffs in North Carolina, some in the amount of $200,000. The pictures are all it takes to keep up the investors' momentum.
And the word he used, I can get the cheese. The money will come.
What Jones and the others don't know is what happened a few hours after Kennard gave out those big checks in Charlotte, North Carolina.
After the meeting's over, he brings those individuals up to his hotel room and hands them a legitimate check in the amount of about $1,000, and that those checks would continue up to a total of $200,000.
By late spring, while Jones is in Philadelphia getting plenty of updates, but no money, FBI Special Agent Tim Coakley receives a call from a contractor working at the construction site of the minister's church project retreat.
I received a series of phone calls from an individual who is working at a retreat in Wildwood, Georgia. He had a significant impact on us opening the case because he's the first person we heard from.
The contractor shares that he's always paid in cash, usually a welcome perk. He also notices a steady stream of checks and money orders arrive at the office almost every day.
And those checks and money orders were in denominations of $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, or $12,000.
Over a few months, Kennard's lifestyle seems to be evolving. His first day on the job, Kennard had shown up in an old Ford Escort, but that changes in short order.
The Ford Escort was gone. He was driving a Cadillac Escalade. He then purchased a $125,000 Mercedes, was driving those vehicles to and from the retreat.
And his construction efforts on the Wildwood property were solely focused on his own church building, with expensive sound equipment and a large stage, not like a retreat. In early July 2002, with Kennard's business practices appearing questionable, Coakley opens a formal investigation. As the FBI begins to dig deeper into Kennard's story, he continues to dig into the pockets of more people. Although his church isn't in dire straits, Pastor John Payton believes other churches in need of money could benefit.
He just knew what to say to a hurting pastor that would give him hope.
It is to empower, financially empower these men and women of God to be able to be free enough to go to work for Jesus without stress, to be free.
At Payton's request, he received some literature from Kennard's organization. Payton phones the gifted minister. The two men hit it off.
I think he kind of bonded with me because he saw me as a powerful black leader full of excitement too.
That is something that you see that's very common in these schemes is to essentially buy or find or align yourself with people who are already trusted members of the community.
Over the next few weeks, the pair speak several more times, further cementing John's belief in the Reverend. Kennard often brings up faith and trust in God.
We talked back and forth, and He was praying on the phone with me. He says, look, we need to pray. I need your prayer. I need your help.
Full of excitement, Peyton feels a spiritual connection.
I even took the prayer to my staff and said, look, Abraham Kennard just prayed with me on the phone.
Peyton is mesmerized by Kennard's charisma. Although the plan is grand, he embraces the possibility that it will work. After all, some people have already received their cheese, a term Kennard uses to refer to money.
We're getting ready to experience some of the greatest moves of God. That's why money's coming. That's why the cheese is coming, because freedom comes with cheese.
On July 10th, 2002, Pastor John Peyton decides to make an investment. After all, he has the funds, and he believes in Kennard's vision to help struggling pastors.
I sent the whole $18,000. He sent back me the receipts that I was in the club all the way.
Next, while the FBI moves in at the organization's highest levels,
information from people, from insiders, that's usually indicative of the end is near.
the faithful hold the belief that their big payday is coming.
I could not see any other way that I would not get paid.
By late July 2002, authorities now believe that Kennard's solicitations to church pastors could be a massive Ponzi scheme with millions of dollars and hundreds of churches involved. Agent Tim Coakley confronts Kennard directly and informs the preacher that the FBI is investigating his business practices.
He felt as though he could convince the FBI that he could make this happen.
With the rank-and-file preachers growing restless to see some financial gain, Reverend Abraham Kennard announces a big meeting on July 26th in Orlando, Florida, and he says this time he's got money for them. 4 months after his investment, and without having seen a return, Donald Downing is certain his time has come. It has to.
I could not see, any other way that I would not get paid.
Pastor Downing has invested a total of $5,000 with Kennard, and he needs to see some cash soon.
I had found a building for the church. It was like about $500,000. I'd already kind of, committed to that.
On July 26th, Reverend Abraham Kennard descends upon the Orlando Hotel ballroom filled with thousands of people, from his affiliates to new investors to those like Downing who have been waiting patiently. The group is bubbling with anticipation. At first, Kennard doesn't disappoint. With his trademark panache, Kennard immediately launches into his standard pep talk about faith and patience.
But if you want to walk the walk of faith with us, then we want you in.
He hammers home the message of big money coming in, still laying the trap to lure investors.
Abraham ain't gonna get no glory. God's gonna get the glory.
Pastor Downing can barely contain himself. He's certain that at any moment, Kennard is going to call him to the stage so he can receive a check.
I really felt that. I was next in line.
But again, the money's not there.
Nobody got money. The payouts didn't happen.
But Kennard blames the government, who he says is unfairly investigating his business.
What he did was very cleverly find a way to spin that information and say, they're investigating me for all the wrong reasons. They're just trying to come down on a religious guy.
For Donald Downing, hearing about an investigation is a painful realization. Downing wants to believe Kennard.
You try to keep hope alive. And they gave reason that the officers of the state and the federal government had came in and froze their accounts, so nobody's getting their money.
What the promoter of the scheme does is it takes money from the investor and uses that money to pay old investors. When those interest payments stop, because the promoter can no longer find new money, then it begins to fall apart.
It's the beginning of the end for Abraham Kennard and his church project.
It really began to spiral downward.
After Orlando, Kennard is in full-on damage control.
In an effort to appease his membership, Kennard flew around the country in a Learjet trying to convince all of his close-knit, what he called affiliates, that the program was still going to work, hang in there.
Knowing he will be coming to a nearby church, Kennard reaches out to Pastor Payton, this time not for support and prayer, but for another $18,000 investment. Kennard seems impatient.
Hurry up and get your money in real quick.
But Payton has yet to see any returns on his first $18,000 investment. With rumors of Kennard's growing financial and legal troubles circulating among investors, Payton wants a second opinion. On September 19, 2002, he calls his friend and church lawyer to check up on Kennard. The next day, Payton receives a call from his attorney. The FBI wants to meet with him.
They said, this man is not real. He is a con artist.
A stunned Payton tells his lawyer and the FBI that Kennard will be in Dumfries, Virginia that night. This time, law enforcement will get to see Kennard in action for themselves. Donald Downing has still held out hope that Kennard is legitimate. He's also present at the meeting in Dumfries. Downing knows it's over the minute he sees the authorities.
But I knew where, in my heart, I knew that it was over.
Seriously, hundreds of pastors are there. I have a FBI agent on both sides of me, the sheriff, and we're sitting there.
Payton is amazed by the show Kennard persists in putting on.
All of a sudden, they said, on your feet. In comes Abraham Kennard. All I could think about was, this is a con artist, and he's good.
For a man whose ship is about to sink, Kennard puts on a great show with praise, music, and preaching.
As a matter of fact, he was so good that the FBI agent sitting next to me said, he almost got me convinced.
Cleveland, Ohio is a rugged, Rust Belt town built on manufacturing and...
With field officers from all over the country working on the case, they need more time to coordinate and plan, but they're closing in. On November 5th, 2002, moving quickly and independently of the FBI investigation, the Securities and Exchange Commission files an emergency civil action against Kennard and the NIIC. The judge grants the commission's request for emergency relief.
Every day that goes by is another potential day where you get new victims.
On January 29, 2003, armed with more solid evidence of fraud, FBI agents raid Abraham Kennard's NIIC headquarters on the 19-acre Wildwood, Georgia property.
They went in and they found boats and all kinds of valuable things he had brought.
A mountain of treasures in the form of 16 vehicles ranging from Cadillacs to BMWs to Mercedes, 5 Wave Runners, 4 trailers, high-end lighting, sound and video equipment, and a 1995 Harley Davidson.
He lived a luxurious lifestyle on all of these victims.
The news of the raid ripples through the national church grapevine, and the deceived are forced to face the truth.
I talked to the state attorney, and he just shared with me, we've got pictures of him in a room with all room floors covered with money. I had all the feelings, sick, anger, disgust.
Within a matter of weeks, the faithful see their hopes and dreams scattered like dust.
I was really disappointed that it looked like we weren't going to have the opportunity to reach out to other people.
Even for Payton, who could afford to lose the $18,000 he originally invested, the fact that Kennard did it in the name of God is a bitter pill to swallow.
You would never believe this man was a con artist. He sounded like a traditional black preacher full of the God that we all serve.
After a year and a half of footwork, on January 10, 2004, authorities present the case against Reverend Abraham Kennard to a grand jury.
They returned a true bill charging Mr. Kennard and others in a 91-count criminal indictment.
Abraham Kennard is accused of scamming over $8 million from 1,600 churches and nonprofit organizations across 41 states.
I attempted to contact Mr. Kennard, thinking that he would turn himself in. He chose not to do so.
Instead, Kennard goes on the lam. The hunt for the man with the millions begins. Then, after 5 weeks of tracking Kennard, the FBI confirms he's hiding out in a relative's residence in northern Mississippi. On February 24, 2004, Tim Copley's tip pays off.
We contacted the FBI office in that division. They took the case from there, prepared for the arrest of Mr. Kennard, and a SWAT team approached the residence. He was arrested with a co-defendant who was also a family member of his.
Next, as authorities confirm that Kennard's been living off the faithful.
It wasn't until he put the religious context or the face of God on his scheme that it really took off.
Kennard turns to the faith he was once so willing to sell.
He had complete faith in God. God would save him from consequences of the allegations against him.
I was determined to eat him for lunch.
News is spreading quickly that the high-rolling Reverend Abraham Kennard was indicted for conning nearly 1,600 churches and pastors out of millions, all to support his luxurious lifestyle. His arrest and upcoming trial is all cheated investors can talk about.
I saw pastors crying, weeping, broken, angry.
The hardest thing for these people is this huge violation of trust. They saw someone who made a lot of promises, who spoke their language, who seemed to understand them, and was clearly successful.
In the end, it is some of Kennard's most trusted members, those he called affiliates, that helped bring his house of cards crashing down.
They believed him, most of them, up until the last minute, till we were able to show them that there was no money, that the only money that was being dispersed was their friends and those other church victims in that community.
On January 10, 2004, Abraham Kennard enters a plea of not guilty. Claiming he has no money because the SEC has frozen his assets, the court appoints Kennard a well-respected defense attorney.
He exuded confidence in himself and made a very interesting client.
Kennard's claim of poverty is highly suspect. Bank records show that just a few months before the SEC filed a complaint, Kennard cashed out over $500,000 in cashier's checks, not to mention the trove of luxury goods that belie his claim of poverty.
We seized several Cadillac Escalades, Wave Runners, luxury items that we determined were all purchased with these ill-gotten gains from the church victims.
The most telltale sign of someone who is spending other people's money is outrageous luxury.
The charges against Kennard read like a laundry list of high-dollar crime.
Wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, and other counts.
All to the tune of over $8 million. On January 10, 2005, the day before the prosecution's opening statement, Kennard makes a request to defend himself.
Sometimes his idea as to how we should defend the case differed from mine. He had complete faith in God, and that God was directing him, and God would save him from the consequences of the allegations against him.
While prosecutors view this as a classic Ponzi scheme with a religious twist, the defense doesn't see it that way.
To Mr. Kennard and to a lot of people that believed and supported him, it was not that at all.
His defense is simple. The people who invested with Abraham Kennard did so with little arm twisting from him. Like Kennard, they believed in the program. And like Kennard, they were devastated when it went south.
He had every intention of following through and delivering what he had promised, but the government prematurely shut him down. He had no ability to follow through and deliver once they froze his assets.
That excuse won't fly, since they have solicitation ads for investors as evidence.
It wasn't until he put the religious context or the face of God on his scheme that it really took off.
He used charisma, he used the Word of God, he used music, he put them all together. He knew the secrets of the black church particular.
Kennard's trial is underway at the United States District Court of Northern Georgia, with Kennard himself at the helm of his own defense. In their opening argument, prosecutors contend that Kennard promised members of his church fund project $500,000 in forgivable loans or grants for every $3,000 in membership fees paid up front. The retreat he was supposedly building hadn't even applied for construction permits.
This case involved greed by Abraham Kennard. He lived a luxurious lifestyle for almost 2 years on all of these victims.
Prosecutors introduced several pieces of evidence, including taped phone conversations, indicating that Kennard had lied to his investors about having big backers.
He did state that there were large investment firms that were providing money to him, that there were entertainers and sports individuals that were looking for tax shelters, and he was able to tap into those monies.
With Kennard representing himself, several of his victims find themselves being cross-examined by the very man who betrayed them.
Most of them, this was their first opportunity to see him, since he had bilked them out of thousands of dollars.
In court, Kennard taps into his emotions.
He was tearing up the courtroom using scriptures and intimidating people with, God's gonna kill you for this and that and the other.
He has zero remorse. It was just a remarkable show of a complete disconnect with reality and morality and what was right.
On January 18, 2005, Pastor John Payton takes the stand on cross-examination.
I was determined to eat him for lunch. And so the first thing he did was he started quoting scriptures. I said, don't even try that with me. I know the Word of God in a strong way. I don't think you want to quote scriptures to me.
Next, a verdict. Kennard's victims must now come to terms with the betrayal and their part in it.
I felt that I really wasn't worthy really to be a pastor.
It's the last judgment of Kennard that matters.
At the end of the day, we all have to stand before God, and he's got his day too.
On February 7, 2005, after a 4-week trial, the jury finds Abraham Kennard guilty on 116 fraud charges. He is ordered to pay nearly $8 million in restitution. Kennard is also sentenced to 17 years in prison. On May 13, 2005, Abraham Kennard began serving his 17-year sentence at Yazoo City Federal Prison in Mississippi. More than 1,600 churches had lost a total of $9 million to this false prophet. Some who were swindled believe that prison time is just a temporary setback for Kennard.
I think he will come out of prison and come up with another con idea. This time he'll try to cover his tracks a little better.
Though Kennard's success in part was due to his charisma, he used a tool that most money schemes can't call upon: people's faith in God.
I think it was over 1,000 churches, $8 to $9 million very, very quickly. He did it because he gained affiliations with other pastors, got them in to buy it.
He used the church and God as part of his scheme, convincing two folks that were very well respected in the Church of God community. And it's those two factors that really made this scheme take off.
Ordered to pay back his victims, it is unlikely that the more than 1,600 churches that he built will ever see their money again.
For some of the pastors, it was their life savings.
There were people who put out as much as $18,000 to $26,000.
The money that was left that they could get their hands on, they divided among the 2,000 churches.
But the money is not the only thing the victims lost. Many, like Downing, lost friends and family.
My wife said, I can't do this no more. It's more than I can take. And so we divorced 3 years ago.
And confidence in themselves.
And it's the roughest time in my life, you know, as a man, you know, and as a pastor.
I felt stupid. I felt that I had not listened to things I had learned as a small business person because I didn't follow those principles. That's why I lost that $3,000.
Still, many victims find solace that justice was delivered to a deceiver like Kennard.
This is a great country, and people like Abraham Kennard can do things like this and get away with it for a while. But eventually, they will be caught, and they will have to pay their price.
At the end of the day, we all have to stand before God for ourselves. And he's got his day too.
If it sounds too good to be true, it is.